teaching the effective components is perhaps more challenging in some ways than the cognitive learning strategies. We certainly know from cognitive neuroscience that the human mind is actually far from a rationally driven and naturally organizing entity. A lot of cognitive science sees the mind as a rather confused and certainly a complex system made up of many interacting competing parts or mental modules. And there's a really important point here, and the world famous psychologist Steven Pinker makes this observation that our actual behavior comes from an internal struggle among mental modules with different agendas and goals. And that's why we're often confused, because sometimes we're thinking in a particular way and we feel differently. It's not easy to think clearly on many occasions, because as we know, emotions, beliefs and moods come into play. In fact, another famous psychologist, Michael Apter, this is what he says about the mind. Read that carefully, because it makes us aware that when we're working with students, that they can be very confused, not just about their identities, about who they are as people, but also about how to manage themselves and do things. What might seem easy to us because we're experienced and we're better at self-regulation is often a difficult challenge for them. So look at that quote. I won't read it out, but it makes perfect sense to me. So this is not to stop us teaching students to develop self-regulatory capability, metacognitive capability, but looking at the neuroscience evidence, it does suggest that full maturation, in other words, the ability to be fully self-regulatory, even self-directed, may not occur until around 25 years of age. And that's because the part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, doesn't actually mature until then. And what this means, if you look at this very carefully, is that the kind of students you may be teaching, young adults, are actually more naturally likely, because of the nature of the mind, to often make impulsive decisions, have lapses in activating effective behavior to reach a goal. So getting our students to be really highly self-regulatory and have very mature metacognitive capability is difficult, but we can move them along that road to self-regulation.